Hey, Mike. What? Who's got next?
What's good, y'all? It's your man Hezo, and welcome back to the Blacktop, where I always got next, you feel me? So I want to apologize for not being able to get a recap out after the Milwaukee game. It was a hell of a win, huge win with no Trey, y'all already know. I obviously watched the whole game. AJ Griffin went crazy. Unfortunately, was not able to get a recap out, and I mentioned it before, that anytime after like 8:15, it was like an 8:20 tip-off time. It's just a little bit too late for me to get a recap out with my work schedule. I do have to be up super early for work the next morning, so I just wasn't able to stay up that late and get a recap out, so my apologies for that. So let's talk some hoops, man. Tough loss, very tough loss for the Hawks tonight against the Jazz. And this Jazz team, man, they are a hell of a team, man. They're a hell of a team. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Leave a like on the video. We are on our way to 800 subs, so if y'all can help me get there, as I always say, I greatly appreciate it. And let's get right into it. A lot to dive into for a very tough game for the Hawks. Starting out, Lauri was extremely aggressive, getting to the free throw line. He shot, I think, 8 free throws himself in the first quarter alone. Atlanta did a poor job defensively with fouling. The Jazz got into the penalty around the 10-minute mark in the first quarter. That's just unacceptable for the Hawks. That's just bad defense. Bad defense overall the entire half. They lit up 9 threes in the first half alone. And that's just, you got to do a better job of closing out on shooters. They were leaving shooters wide open. The offense just could not hit a shot. They were missing wide open shots. They were missing point blank layups, missing so many shots at the rim, especially Trey. He could not get his floater to fall. He was not getting contact. He just wasn't really doing anything offensively in the first half. He couldn't get to the free throw line. He wasn't making his floater. He was missing layups. Capella was missing layups. Sloppy turnovers. Very poor first quarter and the first half for the Hawks. And credit to the Jazz, man. This is a team that has a lot of veterans. I mean, they're really playing with house money. Everybody expected them to be tanking for Wembanyama, which I definitely thought they would be. I mean, they traded both their star players away, and it looks like they got better. I mean, they're sitting at number 1 in the Western Conference, now 10-3. But the thing is, they can play so free. They don't have to play through a certain guy. They just have a lot of excellent role players. Walker Kessler has been an absolute stud for them, especially on the defensive end. This is the number 1 scoring offense in basketball with no star players. And I'm going to touch on Lauri Markkanen a little bit later. But this Jazz team, man, they play free. They're well coached. They play with house money. They're deep. Credit to the Jazz in the first half and really just overall for this game. Atlanta was down 9 going into the second half, and I actually thought they were in pretty good position to win the game, because even though they were down 9, they played pretty poor in the second half. So to be in the position that they were in, I thought they were in pretty good shape. Second half rolls around, and the Utah didn't really come out with the same intensity, same aggressiveness. They were missing shots. Atlanta was doing an excellent job on defense, much improved defense in the third quarter. Went on a huge run. Atlanta got into a rhythm offensively. DeJounte was being, he was playing great. Trey was playmaking. He started to get a couple buckets, started to get going a little bit offensively. Atlanta goes on a huge run to take the lead, and then eventually goes up 10. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is it, man. This is the same team we saw against Milwaukee. Here we are. This is where we take control and we blow these guys out the rest of the game. Nope, I was wrong. Son of a bitch. As soon as the bench unit came in for Atlanta, it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. I've said it before. I do not like Trey with the bench unit. I just don't think it's a good fit, because he just starts jacking up shots. He feels like he has to do everything once the bench unit comes in. Jalen Johnson played pretty bad. He was missing shots at the rim. Justin Holiday. He had a really good first half, but then in the second half, he couldn't really get anything going. He was forcing up threes. AJ Griffin, after that incredible game he had against Milwaukee, he wasn't really getting too many looks. I don't know how many shots he ended up taking, but I know he did hit a 3, but he didn't really get too much PT, but he did get into the rotation, which was nice to see. But overall, then, the bench was just absolutely atrocious. Utah goes on a run of their own. They get right back into the game after Atlanta goes up 10. And then in the fourth quarter, man, it was just an absolute disaster. It was all Utah the entire fourth quarter. Atlanta could not get it going. Nate stuck with the bench unit early on in the fourth quarter until about the 8-minute mark, and that really was deciding the game, because at that point Utah had got so much momentum and got back with getting back into the game. And when you give a team like Utah, who's the #1 scoring team in the NBA, you can't let them get back into the game after getting them down. You have to put the foot on the neck and take control. And Atlanta didn't do that. And credit to the Jazz, man. They stayed composed. And they have veterans on this team that do not panic. All Utah in the fourth quarter, they ended up scoring 42 points in the fourth quarter alone. I think they outscored Atlanta 42-29 in the fourth quarter. Just horrible closeout to the game for Atlanta. Trey was just, I feel like Trey is still trying to do too much. Guys were not really getting involved outside. I mean, Trey was just jacking up shots. He was getting to the paint. He was trying to draw contact, but he was not drawing any fouls. I don't even know if he shot one free throw the entire night. And I'm not going to really blame officiating, because he was just kind of trying to force it, and I don't like that. I thought it was bad offense down the stretch of the game. But the defense, man, the defense was absolutely horrific the entire fourth quarter. They couldn't get a stop. They could not get a stop. Atlanta was playing decently offensively in the fourth quarter, but couldn't get a stop. I mean, it felt like Utah was scored on almost every single possession the fourth quarter, especially down the stretch of the game when Atlanta somewhat started to climb back in it and cut down, the lead to 6-7 points and needed a stop. They just couldn't get it. The Jazz went right to a pick and roll and got a shot right at the rim. It was just every single possession, and it was pathetic, man. It was pathetic to watch for the defense. So my final takeaways for this game: number one, this was a game of runs. Utah jumps out to an early lead. Atlanta cuts into that lead in the second half. They go on a big run, and then Utah answers that run with a run of their own and didn't look back from that point on, and went on a huge run in the fourth quarter to close out the game. And that's what this game is, man. It is a game of runs. The NBA is a game of runs. And if you do not sustain a team after you go on a huge run to really put them away in the second half, if you do not sustain that and you let a team like Utah to climb back in the game, it's a recipe for disaster. A recipe for disaster. Number two, the bench unit. The bench unit was absolutely terrible this game. Jalen Johnson struggled. Justin Holiday, again, he had a nice first half, but he struggled in the second half. AJ Griffin didn't really get too many looks. Okongwu did not play great at all. And after playing so great against Milwaukee, this bench unit was really, it felt like they were starting to find a rhythm. And then they come out against Utah and just completely shit the bed, and they really let the starters down, because you cannot win a game if it's just your starting players that are producing. The bench has to be better. Nate, I feel like, has to still do better with the rotations. Again, I've already touched on it. I don't like Trey with this bench unit. It hasn't worked yet this entire season. I don't understand why he sticks with it, but it is what it is. Number three was the defense. The defense was just absolutely atrocious the entire game. Outside of that third quarter run that Atlanta went on, when they really clamped up in the third quarter, that was it. Other than that, the defense was absolutely atrocious. They couldn't get a stop in the fourth quarter, leaving shooters wide open the entire game. The entire game, the shooters were just getting whatever they wanted. The Jazz hit 17 threes over the course of this game. You're not going to win many ball games in this league giving up 17 threes when you're not making the three of your own on the other end. You can't give up 17 threes, man. It's just that simple. And credit to the Jazz. They were getting open looks. They were knocking down their shots. It's just that simple. Which brings me to my next point. Lauri Markkanen is a beast, man. Him and Malik Beasley both had incredible games. They hit 12 threes between the two of them, 6 threes apiece. But let me tell you about Lauri Markkanen, man. This is a dude who really struggled early on. He had a good rookie season, then he really kind of just struggled to find his rhythm. He has really reinvented himself in Utah, and I think he has really found a home. This dude will be an all-star this year. And in my opinion, at the moment, he is most improved player, and it's not even a debate. Lauri has really come into his own and is really turning into a solid go-to guy for the Jazz. And I've already said that they don't really run their offense through somebody, but if they were to do that, it is through Lauri, man. This dude has played incredible all season long. He's averaging a career high in points, field goal percentage. I mean, he had his season best tonight, which doesn't shock me because it seems like a lot of players do that against the Hawks for whatever reason. Credit to Lauri, man. He's been incredible all season. Malik Beasley, again, he was incredible. He hit 6 threes. Jordan Clarkson was very solid for the most part. Again, this Jazz team, man, they're full of veterans. They have shooters pretty much all around the court. I like Walker Kessler, man. I think he's a stud. He's a defensive anchor, and I really would like to see him play next to Lauri a lot more. My final takeaway for this game is I don't feel like Atlanta was getting enough guys involved. I mean, Trae took 28 shots again, and his shot is just not falling, man. His shooting slump is still there. It seemed like at first he was starting to break out of it. Now, I don't know if maybe tonight was just because of that he missed last game, but either way, man, Trae, I feel like he's shooting too much. When you have other guys that are playing efficiently, Dre took 15 shots and had 22 points. Trae took 28 shots and had 22 points. That's a problem. That is a problem for this Hawks team, man. JC took 8 shots, and he seems like he's starting to get back into an offensive rhythm. You have to feed JC more in the post. It can't be all about Trae and DeJounte for this team. You have to get other guys involved. And when Dre is getting into a rhythm, he's hitting his mid-range. He did only hit 1 3. He did struggle from 3 tonight. But still, man, you can't rely solely on Trae, especially with the bench unit. You just can't rely solely on him taking 28 shots when you have other guys in this offense that could score the basketball. 8 shots for JC is not enough. It's not enough. He shot 6 for 8, had 15 points. It's a solid game for him, man, but he's got to get more touches. And I feel like down the stretch of the game, Trae and DeJounte were trying to do everything, and it just did not work. It didn't work, and we've seen it before with Trae, and it's just been a disaster a lot of the times in closing out fourth quarters. We've seen it against the Pelicans, which we got lucky to get away with the win when the game got into overtime when Trae was super sloppy. They have to get other guys involved, man. Dre has to get more looks. JC has to get more looks. And it's just that simple. If this team is going to be what we want them to be, you have to get other guys involved. Trae does not need to be shooting almost 30 times in a game. I'm gonna pretty much leave it there, man. We got a very tough schedule coming up over these next 10 games. We got Philly tomorrow in the back-to-back, and then we play them again on Saturday. And we got Milwaukee on Monday. So a very tough stretch of games coming up over the next 10 games, and it's gonna be a test. It's gonna be a test for this Hawks team to see what they're really about, especially against higher quality opponents. I feel like Atlanta, if they're really gonna make some noise in the Eastern Conference, you gotta get out of these next 10 games at least, at minimum, 6-4, hopefully another 7-3 over the next 10 games. Let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comments. What did y'all think about this game overall? Jazz fans, if y'all watch this video, I want to hear from y'all, man. Credit to the Jazz. They played an excellent game, and this team looks very, very good early on this season, man. And again, everybody thought they were going to be tanking. Leave a like on the video, and I will catch y'all next episode.